On today's video, I'll be showing you how to wire a three-way switch. A three-way is often used when you're trying to use two separate switches to control one light fixture. So at this point, I've already determined that the wiring is incorrect, and instead of just going through a video and just showing you the problems, we're going to go straight into pulling the switches out, pulling the wires, and then rewiring it correctly. What I like to do on all of my videos, especially when we're dealing with wiring, is I like to kind of determine or separate in our minds by labeling them. So here we have switch A, here we have switch B. First thing you want to do when you're dealing with electrical work is you want to find which breaker corresponds to that circuit. This is the breaker. We're going to turn that off. We have a non-contact voltage detector. And basically there's different types, but here on this one you press the button and you can see there's no beeping. If there was power, it would beep like this. Now here we may get some cross interference because this four-way is on a separate circuit. If you're not sure, you can always turn it on and off downstairs and upstairs, and I'm not getting any power coming to the light fixture here on the wall. Be careful because this one is on a separate circuit. If you have another switch, you always want to be careful because you see when I turn this light on, it's on a completely different circuit. So just be very cautious and careful. Safety is very important when you're dealing with electrical, any type of electrical work. Remove the cover. Now we're going to pull the rocker switch out. You see here we have 3 wires for this three-way. At this point, don't panic. Just remove the rocker switch, remove the wires, disconnect it, and then we'll go upstairs and do the same thing. So here's switch A, and here's my 3 wires. This is switch B, remove your cover. Now we're going to remove our wires from our switch. Be careful, as I said, if there is another switch that is next to the switch that you're working on, it could be on a completely different circuit. This one right now does have live power. You can go ahead and turn off the breaker if you choose to do so, or if not, just be very careful when you're working on your three-way. Here we've removed switch B and our 3 wires are exposed. Once you removed your switches and your wires are exposed, we're going to turn the breaker back on. Be careful because at this point we're trying to find the power source that comes from that breaker that feeds to these switches. So be very careful. If you're not comfortable, go ahead and take some wire nuts before you turn it on, and then just wire nut each wire accordingly. That's if you're not comfortable. If you're comfortable working it like this, then go ahead. But for safety precautions, because you always want to be as safe as possible when you're working on electricity, go ahead and put your wire nuts on the tips of each wire. This is switch A. This is switch B. Turn your power back on at the breaker. So here we're at switch B. This is my non-contact voltage detector. You can see here I'm not getting any power from any of these wires. So I'm going to go down to switch A and I'm going to isolate to see which line is the actual power source and which one are the travelers. So here we're at switch A, and you can see each one is giving me some type of voltage. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take our multimeter and we're going to have to test each lead off of a ground just to see which one has 120 volts coming in. So here I have one of my leads touching my ground. My other one is inside this wire nut, and you can see here I do not have 120 volts. We're doing the same thing. One lead is on my ground, one lead is inside of my red wire, and here I do not have 120 volts. Here I have my last lead, and you can see here I have one of my leads on the ground, one on this line inside of the wire nut, and I do have 120 volts. At this point we've determined that this is the one that has the power. And what I'm going to do is I've tested both these lines. These don't have power, and these are going to be my travelers going upstairs to the three-way, which is going to be switch B. I'm going to tie these lines together, and then I'm going to test for continuity upstairs. Once I get continuity, I'll be able to wire the three-ways properly. So here's switch A. This is my power source. And here I've tied together my two travelers, and we're going to go upstairs with our multimeter. So here I've set my multimeter to the continuity, and now what should happen is when I touch the leads, I should get that beep. So I'm looking for the two wires that are going to give me continuity that will beep. This will allow me to determine which two are the travelers and which one is going to be the common that's coming from the power downstairs. So here I'm testing for continuity, and I do not have continuity. I should hear a beeping from my multimeter. We'll do the same thing here. I'm not getting any beeping. So let's try these two. So these two wires right here are going to be my travelers. So I do have continuity. So I know these two are the ones that I tied downstairs, and these two are going to be my travelers, and this one's going to be my common. So here I pretty much put my wire nuts with the same color wire nuts that correspond downstairs. My yellow are my two travelers. My orange is going to be my common that's going to be feeding the power up here to switch B. Go ahead and turn your breaker off. Here we have switch A. You can see we have 3 separate screws. You always want to put your 120 volt wire that's coming in, which I put the orange cap, which I isolated from the other 2 travelers. That's going to go on your common, which is going to be this one right here. If you're not sure, usually it'll say common somewhere on the switch itself. Usually it's somewhere over here, or you can see right here specifically, it's on the white portion. You always want to make sure that that 120 volts that's coming in from your circuit breaker is going to go to your common. Make sure when you're tying in your wire, just make sure that you're nice and tight. Sometimes I've seen that the person, whoever's working on it, didn't tighten it down enough or torque it enough, and when they put the wiring or the outlet back in, the wire slips out. So just make sure that you just give it a nice firm grip as you're tightening down your line for your common. At this point we have our travelers. It doesn't matter which, at this point, which one goes where. It really depends, up to you. Some people, they just like to do the red and the black. It doesn't matter which way you put it. It's a traveler, so it'll go upstairs. Doesn't matter which way. You just want to make sure that your common, your 120 volt, is tied into the correct slot. The other ones doesn't really matter how you put it in, but we'll attach those right now to our switch. We have all of our wires connected to our switch. I always like to give it a nice little tug just to make sure the wires don't come loose. Once you're done, go ahead and reattach your switch to your box. Switch A is reassembled. Now we'll go upstairs and we'll wire switch B. Obviously, we'll tie in our common first and then our travelers. So here, this is our common and these are our travelers. And I forgot to mention downstairs, always make sure that you put your switch in the proper position. Usually you'll see here it's labeled top. I have seen guys where they put it upside down, and so when you switch it, on is off, off is on. Just make sure, if you want to be professional, if you want to do it properly, that you put it in the proper position. So here we connected our common, and now we're going to put our travelers and reconnect them. Again, it doesn't matter which one goes where. Once you do that, we'll put everything back, assemble it, and then we'll turn our power back on and test our switches. Give it a nice gentle tug. Here we've reattached switch B, and now we're going to test our 3-ways. Turn your breaker on. We have switch A. Here we have switch B. Now I should be able to turn this on and then go downstairs and turn it off. If this video was a help, if it was informational, please subscribe.